Welcome back to Chokitibo Media. Free Dele Farotimi now. Free Dele Farotimi now. Free Dele Farotimi now. Follow the rule of law. Free him. Do you know that yesterday a court in Abuja rolled out a judgment that says the book written by Dele Farotimi should be banned? You know the book we are talking about. The judicial system that has been bastardized. That is what it's all about. So, a court in Abuja said that book should be taken off the shelf anywhere. But never mind, never worry. I will bring to you here in piecemeal, as I got it from the reading of MAYEGUN General Political. So if you don't have the chance of buying the book, or you haven't listened to the accusation and the bone of contention why Dele Farotimi was arrested, I will try to bring part of the book, or the most important part of the book, for you to listen to. So after you listen to that, put your comment in the comment section and let me know what you feel. Actually, many people passing judgment on this book haven't even read the book at all. And that is why this is an opportunity for you to listen to part of the, part of those, of what is written in that book that we're talking about. In the other cultures, the people have been speaking, lawyers have been speaking, everybody's passing their opinion, but majorly from the camp of Babalola, they have also gone to the media also to start to debunk, part of those things that are in that book. I will try my best to bring to you as well later on what I gathered from the media, how what Dele Farotimi accused Babalola of doing is being debunked on the media, on the television. Actually, I didn't see much of this, or I don't see much of this at all on the social media, but on conventional media, they are also standing up, and they are using the court as well, moving from one court to the other to challenge Dele, calling him to court and stuff like this. I learned that there was a case instituted against him in Ibadan, one in Abuja, one in Lagos, and everywhere. I think they want to weigh him down with lawsuits here and there over this defamation stuff that we are arguing about. Don't let me ramble. Don't let me rumble too much over this, and let me leave you to listen to this part that I'm bringing to you. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Let everybody be aware the reason why it is like this. And that is the main point that I'm trying to prove in this broadcast of mine. See you next time.
Bugbear was that the survey, which he was to subsequently attach to the deed of conveyance, which they signed as illiterates, exaggerated the extent of the land sold. They were universally bitter, and I never forgot their stories. The judgment brought back the memories, and the attempt to extend the judgment to Nikon Town was sufficient enough to warrant the need for the composite survey, even if I did not have the benefit of Osahon's tape. I had made the original application for the composite very early in the day. It was made within weeks of the judgment, and as part of the immediate response in the wake of the aggressive claim of the Eletu. Once the Supreme Court judgment was delivered, now you have to understand that in the course of my legal practice, I had built up a vast network of contacts within the Lagos State Civil Service. 12 years of my life spent in Okokomaiko had assured that I have never entered a civil service establishment in Lagos State and failed to find a Lasso brother or sister. The survey department was not an exception. I have handled thousands of governor's consent applications in the course of my law practice, and the survey department is fundamental and critical in anything that one might seek to do in Lagos State that is related to land or any real estate. I have informal channels to plug into any quest requiring governmental involvement, however tangential, and the survey department was not an exception. Even as I awaited Agbenla's execution of the composite survey report, and whilst it took months before same was received from his office, I had received unofficial confirmation, and Agbenla's survey proved to be quite interesting. The land described by the survey in the registered conveyance route of the Eletus fraud is tens of kilometers away from the Lekki Peninsula. It is in Badagry. Now, to be sure, that report merely confirmed what I had been told by Osan Idemudia, who had taken a case against the Eletus a couple of years before and had discovered the survey discrepancies when he sought to ascertain their claims on his clients by having a composite plan drawn. The Eletus and their lawyers abandoned their suits when the composite was filed in court. As the mountain of evidence improved of the Eletus fraud began to pile up, and in view of the order that Atilade had granted quashing the fraudulent warrant that she had issued, and as Afe came to realize how useless the original judgment had become, Afe went back to the accomplices at the Supreme Court. And this is the only logical explanation for the shameless and brazen review of the fraudulent judgment by the second sitting of the court, where the justices destroyed whatever doubt one might have harbored of either their corruption and or incompetence. It was around this time that we began to hear rumors of a return to the Supreme Court by Afe Babalola and his magical elves. And the rumors became real when I got a call from Tokunbo Williams' son, who informed me of the receipt of a motion on notice before the Supreme Court, seeking to correct an error in the judgment produced below. This application to correct errors was brought under Order 8, Rule 16 of the Supreme Court of Nigeria Rules, which provides as follows. Let me explain that. The Ojomu family, the owner of the land in question or in dispute, and then the Badamoshi Eletu family, the fraudsters who conspired to steal their lands. When they went to Supreme Court the first time, the Supreme Court ruled, right, that they should be given 10 hectares of land. It was the Elegushis, according to this book, it was the Elegushis that sold land to the Badamoshi Eletu. However, the land that the Eletus are claiming to be their own is the land that belongs to the Ojomu family. So the Eletu family have the boundary where their land, you know, the border, they say, okay, this is where your land stops. So how could somebody from this side sell lands from this side? So the only way they could do it is to get the corrupt judiciary and then some other people involved. So when they went to the Supreme Court said no, 254 hectares of land with all this evidence were not sold to, there's no record that Ojomu family sold land to Eletu. It was the Elegushi that sold land, and their land did not cross this path to this path. But because Afe Babalola is involved, we will give you 10 hectares, not all these things you want to claim. So immediately they came from that court. Afe Babalola and his lawyers, they doctored the judgment. When they doctored the judgment, the Supreme Court judgment, they now went to the Chief Judge of Lagos State, Atilade, to help to issue a possession writ, a possession warrant, which is that the Supreme Court has ruled that the whole 254 hectares of land belong to us, and now we want to take the land. Upon realizing that the judgment was fraudulent, was doctored, all the petitions of Dele Farotimi to the police, normally they should have had Afe Babalola, the other one, Joseph Chamber, they should have had them arrested, but they were not arrested, right? Those who should act on it, they sat on it. So when they realized that it was going to be a big mess, Atilade advised Dele Farotimi to file an ex parte order. An ex parte order to quash, that is to cancel the warrant that she issued for the Babalolas, the Eletus, to go and claim the land that is not their own. To save her head, right? She said, don't make it a case. Make it an ex parte order. Ex parte order means Babalola and co, they don't have to appear, you know? So, and despite the advice of Dele Farotimi, that to the Ojomo families, that no, let us actually really face it and face this guy and expose this their fraud. Don't use ex parte. They said, no, this whole wahala is delaying multi-billion naira investment in this land. So let's just kind of like do what the judge advised. So what did Babalola do? Using his power, he went back to the Supreme Court, okay, and asked them to review the judgments that they gave. The judgment they've already issued, though, that they should review it. So upon reviewing that judgment, what happened? The Supreme Court now ruled that the 254 hectares of land should be given to Babalola's clients, the Eletus. That is the bone of contention. Let's continue. The application to correct errors was brought under, that is them, legitimizing the fraud perpetuated by Babalola and all that are involved. He used his influence, his corrupt ways, to get the Supreme Court to say, oh, let's use under the Supreme Court rule, right? Change it and yeah. Nigeria judiciary. This application to correct errors was brought under Order 8, Rule 16 of the Supreme Court of Nigeria Rules, which provides as follows. The court shall not review any judgment once given and delivered by it, save to correct any clerical mistake or some errors arising from any accidental slip or omission, or to vary the judgment or order to give effect to its meaning or intention. A judgment or order shall not be varied when it correctly represents what the court decided, nor shall the operative and substantive part of it be varied and a different form substituted. However, Rule 18, ruling of 18th March 2014 was not done to correct any clerical mistake or some errors arising from any accidental slip or omission. Nor did it vary the judgment or order to give effect to its meaning or intention. What the Supreme Court did was to simply sit in appeal over its judgment and give a new judgment. It is pertinent to note that the judgment of the Supreme Court on 12 July 2013 was fully supported by the reasoning of the Supreme Court, as fully adumbrated by ACAS, JSC, who read the lead judgment of the Supreme Court. A portion of the judgment stated as follows. The appellants are entitled to the statutory right of occupancy over 10 acres, which is approximately 24.17 acres of reclaimed land in Osakpa village, which has been excised and assigned to them. That was the judgment of 12th of July 2013. Therefore, the court intended to make an order awarding 10 hectares to Eletus and not 216.758 acres, which the Supreme Court curiously awarded in its second judgment on 12th of March 2014. Even if the reasoning of the Supreme Court was wrong, the court does not enjoy the pleasure of revisiting its reasoning. Parties are doomed to live with its consequences. I found this second visit to the Supreme Court alarming and strange. In our review of the case and considered professional opinion, the Supreme Court had become functus officio and could not revisit the matter, given that we had conclusively dealt with the conspiracy. But apparently, we had underestimated the extent of the putrefaction of the Supreme Court and the extent of Chief Babalola's corrupt riches into the innards of the Supreme Court. It was at this time that we had occasion to begin to liaise with the law firm of F.R.A. Williams and Co., and more particularly with Tokunbo Williams, son, who had charge of the matter on behalf of the Ojomu chieftaincy family. In the course of our interface with the chamber, we became seized of the full file of the case in M779/93, where Rotimi Williams' son had a watching brief and the extent of compromise that had taken place within the Lagos State Judicial Civil Service, particularly the Ministry of Justice, where persons who had been involved in the defense of M779 had become principal officers today. We have good reason to believe that Roadvival JSC was one of the counsels involved, either directly or tangentially in the case between LSDPC and Harris Dredging. Major Murtala Gbadamoshi, later retired, ORS versus Attorney General of Lagos State, ORS, M/779/93. The quashing warrant of execution became the basis for Afe Babalola's latest excursion to the Supreme Court, and the error of my acceptance of the corrupt offer of an ex parte application to quash the warrant for documentary irregularity became obvious to me. I knew before the motion was heard that the court was working to the conclusion desired by Are Afe Babalola. In spite of the spirited attempt of T.E. Williams' son and Boma Alabi, son, who appeared on behalf of UPDC before the Supreme Court headed by the current CJN, Kayode Ariwola, shamelessly proceeded to turn themselves into surveyors and mathematicians, ruling on a claim that was never placed before any of the lower courts, and one that was certainly never in the contemplation of a court that was not seized of jurisdiction. The Supreme Court, in a most shameless manner, sat a second time on the same matter and established the facts of the incompetence or corruption of each and every member of those who were involved with the Gbadamoshi Eletu case, save and except Akas, now retired, who read the original lead judgment and correctly awarded the Eletus the 10 hectares they had already been granted in M779/93. This was the point where I realized that the Nigerian judiciary was hopelessly lost from top to bottom. The Eletus claim had been so thoroughly discredited by the work we had done in Lagos that by the time the second judgment of the Supreme Court was given, the Supreme Court had practically lost all credibility or legitimacy as it relates to any judgment given outside the one originally read by Justice Akas. At this point, there was a stalemate. The judgment of the Supreme Court, which known to all legal practitioners who had bothered to read the judgment, saw that the files and records made no sense. Despite this, there was official complicity on the part of several officers of Lagos State government and the judiciary, beginning with the head judge Atilade to the deputy sheriff of the High Court, and most likely the chief judge herself. Hence, the situation was that the totality of the Supreme Court judgment was in itself very contradictory, as to become useless before the Lagos State judiciary and Lagos State government itself. We had established that the land claimed by Eletus was different from the one described in their deed. Let me explain that too. Like after getting the judgment, right, it's like you take a case to Supreme Court. And then by the time these guys made their ruling, right, their ruling is even in contradiction, okay, of the case that these guys even took to the Supreme Court. It's like there's so much like contradiction in the whole thing. The land is like me saying, my land, oh, this land here is our own. And we're supposed to be, you know, say, okay, how many hectares is that? Oh, it's going to be 10 acres. So you take 10 hectares, so you take it. 27 acres of land. Okay, take that. Then you turn around and you're like, okay, this new judgment says, because they doctored it, right? The new judgment now says, oh, you don't have to take 10 hectares. Take 216. Yeah, take everything. But there is no Lagos State government document in the lands or what have you that has a latest name, okay, on any of this Supreme Court ruling. Like, it no correspond. How we go take? So does that mean that we have to start changing names on some documents now so that they can be able to claim this land that Supreme Court has given to them? But it is Nigeria. So we had established that the land claimed by the Eletus was different from the one described in their deed. We had also worked to show very clearly that the judgment in question was a declaratory judgment that was not in any way capable of enforcement in the manner that the Eletu and their lawyers had sought. The Nigerian Supreme Court on the 18th of March 2014, in a most shameless and profane judgment, pronounced itself functus official and had in shutting out the several parties that would be affected by the sickening miscarriage of justice to which it had yoked itself, given Afe Babalola and the Eletus judgment on arrest, over which it should have declined jurisdiction in view of the plethora of reasons already before the court that would show that the Lagos State government was a necessary party if the court was to ever assume jurisdiction over the 254 hectares. The miscarriage of justice may only ever be explained by corruption of the most nauseating fashion or intellectual indolence of the most criminal type, given the sacred finality of their pronouncements and the weight of the office that they occupy. The problem for Afe Babalola and the Eletus Confederacy was the unyielding force that my firm became in the several petitions that we had written to place the Lagos State government on notice of its obligations to defend the title of the several clients who had relied on the Lagos State Gazette of accession to the Ojomu Chieftaincy family via the existence of suit number M799/93. Major Muritala Badamoshi Eletu retired versus Attorney General of Lagos State. Case number M/779/93. The incontrovertible and clear fact that there was no cover for the issuance of a warrant for the 214 hectares rendered the judgment useless and changed the power dynamic in the conspiracy and amongst the co-conspirators. With the comprehensive destruction of the legal basis of the procured judgment, the Lagos end of the conspiracy that had the law firm of S.B. Joseph & Co. at its head, Itato, the junior partner in the conspiracy, fulfilled his role, began to deliver the execution content of the conspiracy once Afe Babalola had perfected the Supreme Court end of the job. These plans were made without factoring in the X variable, a law firm that saw through the fraud and shenanigans, and counsel who just would not let go of the injustice. With S.B. Joseph rendered incapable of delivering on his brief, and Afe Babalola unable to move the Chief Judge of Lagos State, and by extension, Lagos Judiciary, to issue a warrant of execution of the fraudulent judgment, as evidenced by the letter dated the 20th day of May 2014, which formed part of the exhibit annex to Afe's claims against Pedro, and is the basis of the suit that I filed against Chief Afe Babalola in suit number LD/2787 GCMW/2016, Dele Farotimi versus Afe Babalola. The Lagos crowd had been snookered into a corner by the exaction of my chambers, and we had demolished the original fraud that was arched before Afe secured the first of the two judgments. I have known of the Eletu family since the beginning of my legal practice. I know as a fact that the entirety of their claim is founded on easily established and incurable fraudulence. The Supreme Court cannot hide behind the incompetence of counsel, as it has a duty to examine its own appalling intellectual indolence, corruption, or incompetence. The facts of the Gazette of Acquisition were before the court. The existence of the clear and inescapable judicial estoppel that would operate to stop the court from assuming jurisdiction on anything beyond 10 hectares was also before it. But the court, as though enthralled by whatever Afe and the circus master had promised the justices, acted with utmost carelessness about the integrity of the court, the interest of the citizens and the state that they had been sworn to protect. The conspiracy was always a step ahead of us because some of the clients mistook key members of the Confederacy for friends and helpers. In the immediate aftermath of the second Supreme Court judgment, a stalemate arose about the enforcement and perhaps enforceability of the judgment. We had provided copious reasons to the judicial authorities in Lagos. The Attorney General had been dragged into the matter. The brutal attempt at enforcement of the original judgment against organized estates and corporate establishments had served to galvanize extremely critical and sensitive mass of the affected peoples. And this was when Afe Babalola lost his influence on the Eletus and the Lagos Mafia, whose original brief to procure enforcement of the judgment became the dominant force in the conspiracy, muzzling out the Afe gang. With Afe Babalola rendered impotent, Lawal Pedro muzzled in on the kill. I'll take another short break. Again, this is like my own tea break. Then we're going to go to chapter 9, Pedro and the Jackal, before we wrap it up. We have almost finished reading this.
The law is an ass. They say the magistrate or the court has the discretion on bail. The matter is a bailable offense. Yes. As of today, they are saying arguing on bail, which is, for me, wrong. Very, very wrong. I expected that he should be granted bail because, yes, the prison custody is not built for animals, but it is built for felons. And when the law, it is the law that will decide who the felon is. You don't judge and decide who the felon is when you have not even had a substantive matter. And that is why at this preliminary stage, you don't expect the court to jump into the arena. The fact that the court didn't give him bail is wrong. The High Court had given him bail. The Federal High Court in Ado-Ekiti gave him bail. They took him to Federal High Court. Now they had another one is springing up in Abuja, but I guess that one is a civil matter. The one in Ibadan is also a civil matter because they came by writ of summons. The one in the magistrate court, obviously, that magistrate cannot, in all honesty, say that he is.
See you next time. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. This is Chokitable Media. God bless you as you do. See you next time. Bye for now.